Today's episode of Lone Star Lawyers on the Varsity Podcast Network is brought to you by Varsity Search. Varsity Search builds great teams by connecting lawyers in Texas with career opportunities at small and boutique law firms. So if you're thinking of making a move or your law firm is looking to hire, please go to varsitysearch.com and book a time to visit right into my calendar. Varsity Search, building great teams. Hey everyone, Daniel here back with you on Lone Star Lawyers. I hope you and your family are both healthy and safe. And speaking of great teams, how about the national champion men's basketball team, the Baylor Bears? Unbelievable. And so excited for Scott Drew, for all the coaches, all the players, both on this team and that have been a part of what has gone on there for the last 17 years in building and rebuilding that program, basically from the dust in 2003 when he took it over. We talk some about sports here. Obviously, it's a careers podcast, a lawyers podcast, but I do want to take the opportunity to just not just celebrate and honor the basketball program today, but also just mention, hey, look, when you're out there looking for people to work with, looking for a law firm partner to mentor you, looking for a law firm that has a culture and an environment that is going to be a place that you can succeed and be with for the long haul. I actually think that Scott Drew and the men's basketball program at Baylor is a really good template for how you should be looking at things. I think finding a place that has a leader who is authentic and who cares about the people around him and wants them to become the best versions of themselves, and who has an optimistic and joyful approach. I know that we don't see that all the time within the law firm environment or within the legal field, but it's there. I know some of those folks, and there's something to that. So I would encourage you, as you're thinking about, hey, where would be a good fit for me? What types of people do I want to be around? We're not talking about looking for perfection. We're not talking about looking for people that aren't going to screw up or that aren't going to make mistakes. But I think there's definitely a difference when you are working in an environment and in a culture and around people who are all working towards a common goal, who all believe that they can achieve more together than they can separately, and who are in it for each other's benefit and want to help each other succeed. And I think that's what you saw in the Baylor men's basketball program, both this year and over the last 17 years. And I think that's an excellent, maybe not complete template to look at when you're doing a job search, but certainly a box that you should hope gets checked. So I just, I want to encourage you with that when you do those things, and when you make that type of environment a priority and you find it, incredible things can happen. And that's what happened last week. Now that we're dropping this episode a week after the game took place. So congrats to Scott Drew, congrats to the Baylor Bears, and I am excited for all of you. All right. Today, we are in Waco, hometown of the Baylor Bear National Champions, where our guest is Josh White. And Josh is a business and commercial litigator who also focuses on construction law, where he is board certified. Also, his practice includes representing local government entities in a variety of administrative and litigation matters. Josh is admitted both in Texas and in the state of Utah, and is involved in the National Institute of Trial Advocacy, NITA, and the American Board of Trial Advocates, ABOTA. All right, with that, let's hop into our conversation with Josh White on today's Monday Mentors episode of Lone Star Lawyers. All right, Josh White joins us right now. Josh, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's good to see you. It's been a while. This crazy year we've had, even though we're in the same town, right across the way. But I'm glad to be able to see you and catch up a little bit. How about to start off, share with us a little bit about your firm and your specific practice. We'd love to hear about it.
Sure. Well, I'm board certified in construction law. That's a favorite practice of mine, but I also do all manner of business litigation, whether that's, closely held company, shareholder type disputes, or a trade secret case, or something else. I'm a business litigator at the heart of what I do. On the construction side, I do review and draft, negotiate construction contracts, and so I have some proficiency in that area. But really, I'm pretty focused on litigation and business litigation for the most part.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the board certification in construction law, because that's a relatively new area that you can get special certification, right?
Correct.
Through the state bar. What was that process like? Talk to us about that a little bit.
It was an ordeal. I didn't pass it on my first time around.
Oh, no.
And the second time around, I actually had some surgery and was really not in a position where I could really focus and devote the kind of time that you need for that test. It's a very difficult exam.
Yeah.
And but fortunately, it turned out just fine. And I kind of saw that as just a great blessing.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic section. I couldn't even begin to outline all of the heroes over time in practicing construction law that have mentored me. The collegiality is just superb. Yeah. And I look forward to every year, although we didn't have it this year, of course, with COVID, but I think one of the nation's best construction law conferences in the country, bar none. It's just a fantastic conference every year down in San Antonio, and they also have a good basics course for construction industry professionals and those who are interested in developing this practice area. But I've really enjoyed the relationships, and I've really enjoyed being part of this section. I'm very proud of it. So.
Well, and it's an area that I was thinking back to the years that I spent at the law school, and particularly the last few, and now since I've been out on my own doing this, that construction law has been just it seems like a very high growth area. Like it's just been one that's continued to grow, and the opportunities for young lawyers to get experience on either side, really litigation or the transactional side. Within either the construction section of a larger firm or a construction boutique or whatever it might look like, there's a lot of opportunities for young lawyers in this area. It seems like one that's not going away anytime soon. It's only getting larger and more complex, and there's more work to do, it seems like.
That's fair. Yeah. All of that is 100% accurate. Yes.
Yeah. What else besides the exam? Like, what other things did you have to demonstrate? I know with some of the trial stuff, you have to do so many trials and all that kind of thing. What are some of those other pieces that go into board certification in construction?
Well, I don't remember all of them necessarily, but it is a very hefty application process. You have to have some good references who are familiar with your work and have worked either on the other side or with you in some way. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to run the analysis of whether you devote 40% of your practice to construction.
Okay.
And for me, that involved a very lengthy review of time sheets and just trying to figure out. I mean, yeah, it really is. It was very time consuming, and then there's just sort of an informational competency check that you have to go through and answer and try to get to that point. And at some point, there it seems like there was a certification that yes, you can sit for the exam,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course it's time to show what you're made of. And anyway, it was a little bit of PTSD from the bar exam
Right.
so many years ago,
Right.
and I swore I'd never take another exam after that
Yeah.
one. But it was it was hard. It was hard, and it's certainly something I'm proud of. I see people getting this certification, and because there's that camaraderie, and also because there's that shared trauma.
Right.
It's a hearty congratulations to people who do it, and like I said, it's a tight section, and
Yeah.
and I just really enjoy that.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I was going to say, it's because I think also, and I know this because I've been doing some searches within the area because it's so new, there's still relatively few people that have gotten that certification relative to some of the other types, obviously sections, things like that. So it's a pretty exclusive club that you're in that have that. And so I imagine it will grow over time, but still that those have put themselves through it. And so that's really cool.
Thanks.
What about the rest of your firm? Talk about your some of your partners and the practice that they have a little bit.
Absolutely. We have a lot of bank clients,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's a big part of what we do. We have a lot of business clients, of course, both on the litigation and the transaction side. We somewhat unique, I think, to our firm is that we represent a lot of counties and cities throughout the state,
Mm-hmm.
and we're very proud of that. It's certainly part of our firm's DNA.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
The Haley in our name is after Judge Haley, who has long since passed, but he was involved in as a judge for a while. And the Olson is after Lyndon Olson Sr., who was the attorney responsible for the one person, one vote case that we all learn about in constitutional law, excuse me.
yeah.
And so, there's certainly quite a heritage there. And, Charlie Olson, one of my partners, he heads up our city practice and TML. I'm a proud member of TML and work with him on a number of cases. I should have added civil rights defense and local government to my practice area description earlier, but that's probably 10% of what I do. And certainly that's a big part of what this firm, does in terms of volume and something we're proud of.
Cool. What has it been like recently in regards to COVID for your firm's practice and maybe some of your clients that you spend a lot of time with? We're recording this for context, people listening much later than this on March 24th, 2021. So hopefully by the time some people are listening to this, we're well beyond what you're about to tell us. But what's the kind of current state of play as it relates to how COVID's impacting you and the firm and then also your clients?
Sure. Well, I was trying to remember when the first case of COVID was identified in Texas. I want to say it was about a year ago today, maybe early March at some point. But, I remember very quickly, it seems like within a week. In fact, let me just pause there. Right about that time, in fact, exactly at that time, we were having the construction law conference. And I remember getting my first elbow bump from one of my mentors, Rick Flake, in the construction law section, and I remember how odd that was. That was my officially my first fist bump, elbow bump, whatever. And there were announcements that were made that were quite intense in terms of, if you don't feel good, go home. We don't want you here, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I don't even think at that point I had fully appreciated. Nobody did, but
No,
but
no.
I didn't appreciate how serious this was. But anyway, Texas' first case was right about that time,
Yeah.
and our Texas Supreme Court very quickly thereafter came out with its emergency orders, which of course were that ability to do that was put in place, I think, with Hurricane Ike, and we were able to pivot pretty quickly. A lot of discretion was given to judges, and changes were made. The judges were able to modify serious deadlines that I mean, we're as a profession, we're problem solving, right?
Yeah.
That's at the core of what we do, and so how well this profession does in problem solving is on display like it never has before with COVID. As a firm, we were not quite ready for that, like I wish we would have been. I'm the partner up here over technology, and so I sort of number one, lawyers were defined as an essential service,
Yeah.
but we were encouraged, of course, to engage in remote lawyering as much as possible, as much as feasible, and I had to figure out a way with our vendors to get cell phones to ring from the office phone when calls would be made here at the
Right.
bricks and mortar office.
Right.
I had to figure out how we were already doing a pretty good job on VPN and remote access with the attorneys, but not so much with the staff. And so
Okay.
there were a number of days where I was up here just all by my lonesome, working with vendors trying to get all those things lined up, and they worked very well. They really put us up at the top of the queue, and they got us set up pretty quickly. And the new normal at Haley Olson, was ushered in just within a matter of weeks. So
yeah,
man,
wow. It's hard to believe as you're talking about that it's been that full year ago. In some ways, it seems like it was a different world before that, and it's just forever ago. And then in some ways, it's like that was just yesterday. But what are your expectations? And talk a little too about specifically here in McLennan County and how the courts have handled it. But what are your expectations as we kind of start to move past this, and as we get on the other side, that as we move forward, that changes you expect to see that stay in place, maybe that we've adapted to during COVID, that will continue on afterwards.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think one thing that everybody has learned. I'll speak more from the law firm experience and my own, of course, but remote work, remote lawyering functions just fine in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I remember thinking maybe mid to third quarter last year how much I missed the camaraderie up here, and just the ability to have an open door policy. You can see, I'll just describe it for the listeners. I'm in my office. It's a closed door. If you were to look down the hall of this wing of our building, you'd see all the doors are closed, and the paralegals that are working in their workstations. When we get up out of our office as lawyers and walk down the hallway, of course we mask up, and those are constant reminders that we're not out of the woods yet, whether they're acknowledged consciously or not. But
right.
It's certainly there's a very, very different feel, and it's a feeling. Even though we're all up here, we're all active. It's a feeling that of isolation, and I know I'm not telling anybody anything they haven't experienced and aren't experiencing even right now, but that was certainly something that was that I didn't anticipate. Both the impact personally and the duration. But back to the original question, I think some of the things that are here to stay are, Zoom meetings,
Mm-hmm.
probably minor hearings or pretrial type hearings, maybe summary judgment hearings, those things that involve just a judge and not the jury. I'm
Right.
thinking those will, to a very large degree, continue to be heavily loaded on Zoom and remote
Mm-hmm.
means, particularly as the courts are digging out of backlog and trying to move things along. I can see those things staying in place. I'm really hopeful that we have in-person, jury trials. I know some have started, and again, we're a problem-solving profession, so whether that means plexiglass and super filters and putting the jury in the audience instead of in the jury box, and social distancing. I mean, whatever measures are being taken place or can take place, pre-vaccination.
Right.
I think some of those things are being done, but some of them have also failed miserably. And a courtroom staff member or a juror will get sick, and the party's over. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm hoping that that never changes. I think it's a slippery slope if our constitutional right of jury trials
Yeah.
is if the new normal is a Zoom trial. I think we have to we have to figure out creative solutions to keep the civil justice system, the criminal justice system moving along. But I think we have to remember some of the really important elements of why we have things set up the way that we do, which I think that probably merits a discussion topic in and of itself. But as far as things here to stay, I think we're probably mediations maybe.
Mm-hmm.
By Zoom, I can see that being an option that stays. I don't think it's as effective, but I think that's an option. Depositions are likely to stay remote as an option. Again, I don't think it's as effective, but of those three categories, I would say hearings are probably the most likely, and then probably mediation and deposition 2 and 3. Hopefully jury trials don't stay this way. Anyway, that's what I think.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Well, it does seem like that in general. I mean, the judges, the courts have been pretty good about adapting to trying to get things still moving remotely during this period. And yeah, I think it sounds like, I think you're right. Going forward, hearings, particularly those that are uncontested or just sort of more formalities, could certainly take place this way. Depositions maybe for just kind of, lower tier witnesses or whatever, like not the high profile people or whatever. It seems like that seems some consensus around that. But when it comes to kind of the higher value witnesses, and then also the contested hearings, or whether it's dispositive type motions or the trials themselves, doesn't sound like anybody's interested in doing those remotely moving forward. But just in that category, though, of the hearings and some of those depositions and mediations, like you said, there's a lot of efficiencies there and a lot of ways to save clients money and to let lawyers spend more time doing other things of value. And so instead of just traveling,
right.
things like that.
Right. I mean, the law is resilient. It's creative. And again, the third time I've said this, we're a problem-solving profession. But I think it's important we don't lose sight of the fact that we have certain elements that are in place for a reason. I mean, the rule of law and the justice system that we have in this country is worth. Many of the communities throughout Texas, which I look forward to when I travel, their courthouse is set in the center of the community. Mm-hmm. Those courthouses, in many cases, have been restored to their original, glory, from early 1900s, kind of a thing. And we have symbolism in our courthouses. We have, sometimes statute of the blind justice. We have, the court, the judge is elevated, the jury is elevated from the well, representing their important task and function. We have, just so many aspects, the magisterial type characteristics that we give to the rule of law. And I think, dress, is important. The judge comes in with a robe, courtroom decorum, and that formality, impressing upon people the serious nature of what we do. All of those things, I think, are just, we can't lose sight of that. I think that's far more than just being a rich tradition. It's something that is supposed to impress upon us those things that help hold our society together. And I also think we I think we're in trouble if we have to rely, like you and I are, on Zoom. I mean, for example, Daniel, I'm put to the task right now of either looking at your face and but you perceive that as me looking at my computer screen.
Right.
And if I want to look at you, I have to look up at the camera, and then now it feels to you like I'm looking at you.
Yep.
But I don't get to see you.
Right.
Right. I see a little green light that tells me my camera's on, and so I've got to pick and choose. New York Times did a really interesting article on Zoom and on Zoom communications, and the gist of the article was that if you get done with a Zoom meeting and it just doesn't quite feel right, like something felt a little off, it's because we have evolved to process nonverbal communication at an astounding rate. And our technology, even as it exists, that you and I are using right now, those delays don't account for the ability for us to process nonverbal communication like we do when we really are face to face. Like when you and I had lunch at Alpha and Omega, pre-COVID, right? I mean, we exchange massive amounts of nonverbal communication, and those things are lost through this methodology. I mean, I could go on and on about sort of my thoughts about juries and courtroom practice and all those things, but it's I think it's a big deal. And I mean, 8K resolution is nothing compared to what we enjoy every day in real life with our normal natural sight. So anyway.
Plus, we don't have the Alpha and Omega Euros to eat while we're talking.
Exactly.
Let's not forget. I guess we could have, but we didn't.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Smelling. Since our audience is sort of for a younger associate group, I had really early on. I had what is known probably up here, although gratefully it has faded. Enough years have passed, but it was the cat case where I represented a city, and there was a cat lady, and it just she wrote me some correspondence on a piece of paper and sent it to me, and the envelope and the correspondence itself had a very, very strong odor. I'll just put it that way. And the lawsuit was in the nature of a nuisance, and there was just no good solution. It was a no-win solution. And I went to trial on this thing. And, one of the things that I published to the jury was, a letter. And, it didn't take much for those jurors to very quickly pass the paper very fast down the road, because they could smell it. They didn't want anything to do with it. And in fact, usually the plaintiff's privilege is to be seated right next to the jury. And the opposing attorney in that case actually requested to be seated opposite. Very unusual move, So anyway, there are numerous illustrations that I can think of in trial where perception, tasting, smelling, seeing, experiencing, being able to read the room, look at how people interact, how people react to a certain piece of evidence, sort of that collective gasp, all of those things, which are critical, I think, in terms of not just theatrics, but in terms of advocacy. Those are all lost, with how this currently plays out. So,
absolutely, yeah. Well, and last thing before we switch gears a little bit, talk just maybe for a minute about practicing law in Waco and in McLennan County and the group of lawyers that we have here in town.
Sure. I think it's a collegial bar. It seems like many of the as I kind of go through in my mind's eye, I just saw some people either mediating or having a deposition here, which is kind of rare, to be honest. But it's happening today here at our firm. And I saw some old faces I haven't seen for a long, long time, and local attorneys. And, there's a lot of, we recognize each other. We know each other by name. People still pick up the phone and make calls. They still go to lunch. Even as adversaries in cases, that collegiality is not lost. I think it's a bar that still has character. It's not too big to where you don't know all of the people. And, we still have our local bar conference, and we fit in a reasonable size, place. And, so it's a collegial bar. It's a fantastic place to practice. I had an unusual class. I think our top 10, I wasn't one of those, our top 10 ranked attorneys in my class. I think 3 or 4 of them actually ended up in Waco, which is that right? Kind of surprising. Wow. Yeah. I won't put them on the spot by publishing their names, but they're guys that it's been fun to watch, and we all had our eye on the same ball. We recognized very quickly the qualities that Waco had to offer, and I can go into those qualities in a minute, but just in terms of practicing law in Waco, it's a great location. It's not just a great location to practice law in Waco, but it's a great location from which to practice law in Texas.
Right.
And so, the capital's an hour and a half away. Dallas is a couple hours away. Houston is 3 hours away. San Antonio's 3 hours away. So you've got accessibility to different areas, different metroplexes. There's a quality of life element to that as well. I'm a big fan of live music. I'm a big fan of Broadway. I'm a big fan of really any live performing art, performing arts, and I can't wait to go back from virtual concerts to real concerts. But all the big names and all the big shows that would come to an Austin or a Dallas or a Houston, those are all reachable from Waco, and
absolutely
drivable, frankly. And so that's one thing I really appreciate about practicing here, both personally and professionally.
Yeah. That proximity piece, I think, sometimes gets lost because, and it's actually one of the reasons, we wanted to stay here in Waco anyway, but when I left the law school to do this, that was an advantage to me of starting this here, is that I didn't have to, if I was in Dallas, I feel like I had to focus on Dallas law firms and Dallas lawyers, and being here, and I'm able to, get everywhere all around the state and work with everyone that I had all the relationships with before anyway. And so, not having to do that, I love being here and doing this from here. And I think it sounds similar in terms of practice and being able to kind of get where you need to, from Waco. It really is a nice spot to do that from. So
exactly. Yeah,
that's right. We're actually getting short on time. So before we get too short, I want to ask you about associates and what just over the years you've seen in associates that tends to impress you, or that associates can do to stand out within their law firms?
As I go through the associates that we've had here at this firm, one of which is currently serving as mayor of Waco, I might add.
Yes.
Attitude, willingness to work, not being afraid of pitching in, affirmatively coming around and looking for work, looking to be part of, the practice. And in particular, I've appreciated associates. Again, I won't mention names, but when they've come to me and they've said, "Hey, I'd really like to try this," or "Hey, do you have anything that would allow me to do this?" One thing I love about our firm, speaking as a young associate now, almost 17 years ago, I loved the autonomy that this firm gave me, the ability to spread my wings and go the direction I wanted to go. I've never been denied a resource that might help to develop my practice. I've always been encouraged in every way to pursue whatever I wanted to pursue. It happened to be construction at one point on my timeline, but just the immense support that I have felt from my partners up here as a young associate was very encouraging. And likewise, from a partner now looking at the associates, that proactivity, to be proactive and to be to take ownership of your career and to just to stay hungry, stay curious, stay passionate, and to as much as you're able, whatever encouraged you to pursue the practice of law in the first place. Maybe it's something different now that you're practicing, but if you can somehow find something to be passionate about, stay on that path, because it changes everything in terms of interaction with partners, in terms of attitude, in terms of just work product. I mean, everything is better if you're on that path. And if you're not, you better figure out a way to pivot and adjust and adapt to find one that is, because
Right.
you can't really. I mean, I guess you can fake it till you make it, but anyway, that certainly is a characteristic that the best of associates over the years have impressed upon me, and I not only is this firm, but firms throughout Waco are a very good place to do that.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Last thing I want to ask you about, what about when you're hiring lawyers and associates? What are one or two things that you're looking for, either in the resume or in the interview? What are some of the key things that you're on the lookout for?
Well, I I appreciate the question. I've actually handled the firm's summer law clerk program with Shad Robinson for over a decade at least, and so I definitely can speak to that. Right out of the gate, if the applicant knows this firm and their questions indicate that they've done their homework, that's helpful.
Right.
That allows us to really get right to the. I remember some interviews, for example, where they said, I really want to practice criminal law. And, it's like, well, if you look at our website, you notice we don't have a criminal practice. So that's going to be, that's not, and also we don't do family law up here. But pretty much everything else I think is fair game. But I think it's unrealistic for law students in those interviews. Could be wrong. Again, I'm just general opinion.
Right.
I think it's unrealistic to think that you have a specific area that you have figured out and that you want to pursue. And so people that come on a little too strong in terms of, I definitely want to practice like, sport agent law,
Yes.
that you'll appreciate, right?
Yes. I
I
talked to a
mean,
few of
something
those.
like that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, then it's like, well, gosh, good luck to you, man. I hope it works out.
Right.
But associates who come here, realize, well, at the outset, at least, the partners are kind of your clients, quote unquote, and you got to be willing to try a number of different practice areas and participate and help support,
Yeah.
and be willing to just be the go-to guy for a while. And sometimes, as we know, the law of gravity, things roll downhill. And so sometimes the files that maybe are not the most desirable, those
Right.
end up on the young associate's desk. And just having a good attitude and realizing that at some point, you've got to, you just got to embrace it
Yeah.
and run with it. So.
Well, and just to kind of follow up real quick on that, because there's a couple of things there about, being prepared, knowing who you're interviewing with, knowing what the firm does, and then also understanding your role as a new associate there in serving the clients, serving the firm. And there's a way to go about, we joke about, and I was one of these at one time, and there's others that want to do things that are very niche down and unique and hard to get going, like a sports agent or sports law or something like that. But like, it'd be one thing, it'd be different to go into an interview with you and say, Josh, look, I know Haley and Olson. I've wanted to be with you guys for a long time. I know for years I'm going to contribute to the firm in the construction area or commercial litigation. My dream is to ultimately do sports law. Would you be okay over time if I was to be able to kind of start to develop that practice, that kind of thing? Like, because then it's like they've prepared, they know who you are, they know you don't do it now, and they know it's a long-term play, but like, and they're willing to do the other things. I mean, that's just a totally different approach.
You exactly, and that what you just said. If I heard a potential candidate say that, I'd be excited about that candidate.
Yeah, right.
I really would. You've now just changed something that may, depending on delivery and tone and approach, would have been perceived as a negative and probably a non-starter. You've now turned that into something that is actually quite exciting. Yeah. Because now we're talking about somebody who has a passion, they have long-term goals, they think ahead, but they also recognize where they're at right now. And I think that makes a world of difference. That's probably one of the great hypotheticals that you've presented in terms of that interview, Daniel, is, my sort of telling you, the experience that I've had as the interviewer, and then you coming back almost as a coach to that applicant and saying, why don't you try this approach instead? From my chair, that makes all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. So can I have the job? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we go?
Yeah, there was no hypo there. That was no hypo. All right. We got some rapid fire questions to close us out. Name one trait or characteristic that you most want to see in an associate.
I would say work ethic and the self-assurance that doesn't mean you come back. You have to have constant feedback and constant. If you don't hear to the contrary, you're doing just fine.
Yeah, good. What habit has been key to your success?
Oh, I was probably projecting a little bit in my prior response. I think those things have probably been, all the things that sometimes that we like about others are things that match with what we like about ourselves, or things that we don't like about ourselves, and so we don't like what other people do either. But no, I think just working and taking it a day at a time. I think mentorship is important. I've never been afraid to talk to some of the guys up here when I've struggled or been needed some guidance, and I think that's important. And I think I can't really point to anything in my career, any success, or any W, victory, win, whatever. I don't think I can point to any of that without giving significant credit to people who have propped me up and supported me and helped me along the way. Whether it's in the construction law section, whether it's here at the firm, whether it's in the community, in broad ways. I've had judges that have called me up after a trial or after a hearing just to talk and give me just the very complimentary and encouraging type of dialogue. I'll never forget them. I'll never forget those calls. Not in decades. Not in my whole life. Yeah. A 5-minute call from a judge or a 10-minute call from a judge regarding something that I did that he or she was impressed with. I'll never forget it. It makes my whole year. So I mean, those are the kinds of things that I think have helped me succeed, is the encouragement and mentorship. And the chance, just give me a chance. Clients who've taken a terrible risk, particularly early on in my career, where they were, right. I handled cases, multi-million-dollar cases, a significant multi-million-dollar, versus oil company kind of case. And they gave me the chance, and I knocked it out of the park. I get by with a little help from my friends, as the lyric goes. And, I just think you've got to try to create a team of people that can support you. You have to listen and learn, be curious, be humble, be teachable, all of those things. So,
yeah, cool. What's your favorite app or productivity tool?
I've got two. Things is one. That's a Mac app for those of you that are PC diehards. And
Things.
Then
okay.
Things,
okay.
Things.
Yeah.
And then Evernote.
Evernote, yeah.
Those two, for me, hand in hand. I also, maybe less obvious, there's a really great app called Timeline 3D. It's by a company by the name of BDocs. They've been around for a while. They're a small, young company, but fantastic timeline type app that help you keep your stories straight and keep them from commingling.
I've started asking this too. What's your pen of choice? I'm curious what lawyers are using for their pens these days.
Yeah, sure. And in fact, it's funny because I've got, every time I see one of my colleagues up here who has this same pen, I say, "Oh, I can see you've got my pen," because we've forgotten who turned the other one on to this particular pen
whose
first.
idea it was.
But here it is. This is my pen of choice. It is the Energel Liquid Gel ink. That's it.
Right here.
That's my pen of choice.
Okay. There was a little Facebook group or conversation going amongst some of the Baylor lawyers from my class about what their pens were. And so I was like, I went down and I took like 5 of them down and like ordered all of them to try them all out. Like literally I've got like 8 of them here. And so I'm just curious. That's interesting. So you got the Energel one. Okay. That was one of the more popular ones in that group, by the way.
There's another one, Uniball Signo. This one right here. It's a good pen. I like it for signatures in particular.
Yeah.
Where you've got to actually have ink to paper. I like it for that. I'm a huge typography nut. Matthew Butterick's Typography for Lawyers is a fantastic read. And so anyway.
That's cool.
Well, yeah. I'm just gabbing away.
No, you're good. Your favorite social distancing activity?
Virtual concerts.
Virtual concerts. What's the last one that you did or went to or watched?
The one I've had a couple that have been since then, but the one that was most impactful, probably from a sort of a mental health and just happiness type of venture, was Andre Bocelli over the holidays. He had a fantastic historical Italian site. His daughter came on board. They had some really cool, choreography. But that was a great pick me up at a time when I really needed it. And
Cool.
So yeah, virtual concerts, I would say.
That's awesome. All right. Lastly, favorite legal movie.
I missed this one.
It's the most important question of the day.
I know.
Now I'm catching you cold on it. I like it. This is going to be.
I'm actually a movie buff. I'll tell you something, Daniel, just for kickers. In Waco, this is pre-COVID now. I used to I love to go to movies. I pretty much used to hit them all. And there's an IMAX in Waco, and you can go on a Thursday night to a late night movie after you've got the kids settled, and you just need kind of to recharge and regroup and take some time off. You can go on a Thursday night to the IMAX, and you just might be the only one in the theater. And I have no shame of saying that.
I've done it before. So, absolutely.
Okay, fine. I'm that guy. But seats J5 or J6, please don't take those if you take this idea. That's I love movies. Okay, so my favorite legal movie of all time, probably Paul Newman's The Verdict.
Yep.
Early 80s. Yep. I love that. It's kind of the hero story, redemption. My cousin Vinny for comedy in terms of that legal movies and genre. Yep. Aaron Barakovich, you can't really beat that.
Yeah.
John Travolta had a pretty good one.
Yep.
The Grisham Civil Action. The Grisham ones were pretty good in their day. A lot of them were dated, and right. I don't know that they hold up very well. But yeah, I mean, I think The Verdict was a masterpiece type movie, and it's meaningful to me.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Well, we do occasionally do legal movie deep dive episodes on here. Robert Callahan and I do.
Robert's at my class. He's a classmate of mine.
So we've done about 10 so far. And The Verdict is on the list to hit this year. And so it will definitely get done. And so I'm looking forward to it because I haven't seen it in a long, long time. So I need to catch up on it. So that's exciting. Cool. Well, Josh, thank you again so much for taking the time to come on the show. I appreciate it and wish you the best and your firm the best as well.
Thank you very much. It's great to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. My thanks again to Josh White for joining us on the show today. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider doing two things for me? Would you subscribe so you don't miss an episode? And then would you rate and review the podcast in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen? And if you have suggestions or thoughts about the show, or if I could help you in any way, please email me, Daniel@VarsitySearch.com. We have a number of opportunities all over the state in a variety of practice areas that we're looking to fill right now. So if you or someone you know might have interest or thinking about making a move, please don't hesitate to reach out. The jobs are moving fast, and so the sooner the better. And lastly, again, one last congratulations to Scott Drew and the Baylor University men's basketball team on its first ever national championship. Unbelievable, incredible accomplishment. So proud of you all. And happy for all those Baylor Bear basketball fans that are listening right now. It's been a long road and a long time coming. So enjoy it. And that's all for this episode of Lone Star Lawyers. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Daniel here with Varsity Search, and we'll talk with you next time.